So essentially, anything you try to mix needs to start with a microphone. So we've got an SM57 here, and to plug it in, take your cable, plug it into your input. Then take the other end of the cable, and you plug it into the microphone. That's step one. So this is what's called a dynamic microphone. Pretty much, it's just got an electrical coil that's hidden under here, and as you talk into it, it vibrates that coil, which sends an electrical signal down your cable into the console. Now, that electrical signal it sends is absurdly tiny. So, what we need to do first after we plug in is we need to turn up the gain to a point we can hear it. The gain knob is right under the input, right here. And essentially what you do is you take your microphone, you talk into it in some capacity until you get signal, which as I'm talking into it, you can see it lighting up over here, and we can hear that. Now, there's a little button right there that says low cut. So that talks about the equalizer, which is what these blue knobs here are. What an EQ does, we can pick different frequencies and we can selectively turn those up or down. We've got high frequency, which is just set at 12 kilohertz. And so we can just turn that up to 15 or down to negative 15. We move down, we've got our mid frequencies. Now, this one behaves a little differently because we've got that same volume knob, but then right here, we can choose our frequency anywhere from 100 hertz, which is about the frequency of a kick drum thump, all the way up to 8K, which is an annoying frequency that anyone who does audio will tell you they don't like. And then we also have another band, low. Now we move up here, we've got what's called a compressor. What a compressor does is takes the dynamics of a signal. So let's say you've got a singer that likes to be real quiet and then gets super loud. We can rein that in with a compressor, which essentially takes the volumes overall and just shrinks it down. So rather than like this being the low of a singer and this being the high, it takes this high and it just kind of pulls it down. So now everything we hear floats in this zone as opposed to everything they do, which is in this zone. Now that we've plugged in our mic, we've turned up the gain, we've compressed it, and we've got an EQ set, this needs to go somewhere, right? So we come down to our sends. These are auxiliary sends, which is just a separate send for like a backstage speaker. And we can just turn that up and down, and we can do up to 2 of those on this particular console. So we've got pan, which is essentially just if you've got a speaker over here and you've got a speaker over here, where do you want your signal landing between the two? So we can take our pan and we can just turn that. It'll turn down the right speaker and turn up the left speaker with the signal we're sending it through. Now, as we move down from there, we've got the mute button, which is your best friend. So that's just your on-off button, and as you see, there's a little LED that tells you whether it's on or off. We want it on so we can hear it. Not that we actually can, because I don't have my speaker plugged in. Then we've got this fader here, which is your basic volume. The thing with a fader is zero's up here, right? Which usually doesn't make much sense. You would think 0 would be down here. The reason 0 is here is that takes the signal that has already gone through all of this, and if we were to have our fader at 0 right there, which is also called unity, all that means is this signal that's ran through this channel strip all the way down to here will move through unaffected. Which means as we pull it down from 0, we are turning down that signal before it runs away and goes into our master section. And we can also turn that up, etc. Now, these 3 buttons here are sends, similar to how these auxiliaries work. Now, the solo button, when I press that, it allows me to plug in my headphones, and I can now listen to what is coming through this microphone in channel 1 on my headphones without sending it through anything else, through our speakers or anything, so that I'm the only one that hears it. So, when we're done soloing, let's say we're ready to send it. I can press this main button, which will then send it to the main mix. And that then sends all of these signals that we have mixed and ready to go through the mains to our speakers for the audience to hear, and hopefully it sounds good. When we come back here, there's also the sub. The subs do not actually send to any speakers. So the purpose of what we can do there is I can send, let's say, microphones 1 through 4 to sub 1, and let's say I want to send 5 through 12 to sub 2. This can be used for a lot of different things, but let's just say 1 through 4 are instruments and 5 through 12 are vocals. I can then control my instruments and my vocals separately without having to adjust 8 different faders to do that. I can just turn down all of my instruments, turn up all of my vocals, vice versa, etc. And that covers pretty much the basics of an analog console. Now we've got all these different inputs I didn't touch on, but essentially these are all just different ways to plug stuff in. So if we've got like a guitar, we can plug in a guitar there. Because it doesn't plug in here for reasons I won't touch on today. Hope this was useful. Y'all have fun.